Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Pranit.
And I'm Akshat.
It's our pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of the Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership, BITS Pilani, to the India Portfolio Summit as a part of the 18th edition of Conquest, India's largest student-run startup accelerator.
The Indian startup ecosystem has come a long way from its outset in the early 1980s. From the license Raj to liberalization, from the global financial crisis to the boom of e-commerce, and from getting its first unicorn in 2011 all the way to 100 unicorns in 2022. The Indian business landscape has continued to evolve and reinvent itself to break through all hurdles and setbacks. With the India portfolio, we aim to chronicle in detail the nuanced history of Indian businesses and cover the rise of India's new economy and bustling entrepreneurial ecosystem through the lens of the founders and builders that played a key role in shaping the Indian startup ecosystem.
Envisioning India as a VC firm, we believe these founders and leaders represent India's best investments. India has been built on the shoulders of these founders who set out to make a change. These businesses have redefined India, or rather, these investments that are synonymous with the India portfolio. This summit brings to you their stories in an unfiltered take to inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs.
The summit would trace the journey of India's business landscape with an exciting three-era narrative: inception, ignition, and inflection. We begin with Era 1, inception. Set right in the backdrop of post-independence India, which is chaotic, both politically and from an economic perspective. The India portfolio seeks to assess this era with reference to the numerous archaic policies that existed, and yet how various businesses managed to find a strong foothold and a niche for themselves.
In Era 2, ignition, we look past the dawn of the new century. India saw the rise of founders building for the Indian consumer on the back of increased purchasing power among people and the influx of various new technologies. But this era was replete with its own contradictions and ironies that often came to bite startups navigating their way through red tapeism, corruption, and a market yet to understand its own potential.
We end with Era 3, inflection, the period when the Indian startup ecosystem hit its inflection point. With the democratization of data and the last mile delivery of services, this era is marked by new age businesses going public and venture funding reaching a new high. It's only upward for Indian businesses from here.
Over the next 2 days, our esteemed lineup of speakers will touch upon these major landmarks in the Indian startup ecosystem and will introduce to the world their unique assortments of tales of successes and failures through one-on-one fireside chats, open to all AMA sessions, and engaging panel discussions. Today, we have various sessions, including internet-first companies, a session with India's first unicorn, InMobi, along with a session titled India's Gaming Dream with Nazara Technologies, the Dotcom Decade, and our last panel for the day is titled Through the Eyes of a Venture Capital Firm. This panel recognizes the contribution of founders and various stakeholders in the startup ecosystem.
These sessions cover the creation and growth of various niches and markets in the ecosystem over the last 4 decades and aims to help current and aspiring founders learn how to build on these niches and ideate game-changing solutions.
An introduction to our team. We are the organizing team of Conquest, India's largest student-run startup accelerator. We are a group of motivated students who constantly strive to facilitate startups in navigating the challenging startup ecosystem. Over the past 3 years alone, we have catered to 5,500 startups while offering a wealth of resources and networking opportunities. And to the top 10 startups in our cohort, we give them the unique opportunity to pitch their idea to a decorated jury of industry experts, venture capital firms, media houses, ecosystem stalwarts in an effort to win our equity-less cash prize.
Pulling off an event like this requires incredible amounts of effort and dedication from all the stakeholders involved. And none of this would have been possible without the help of everyone that chose to invest their efforts into the India portfolio. As part of the Conquest team, we'd like to thank everyone who helped make this event the success that it is. So a huge thank you to our incredible speakers, brilliant moderators, invaluable partners, and the faculty and staff of our esteemed university, BITS Pilani. We'd now like to call upon our CEOs, Utkarsh Chaudhary and Dhruv Faria, to say a few words.
Hello, everyone. Greetings from CL BITS Pilani. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the India Portfolio Summit organized by Conquest. To give you some context, Conquest is India's first and largest student-run accelerator with the motive of encouraging and facilitating the entrepreneurial spirit pan-India. This is the 18th edition of Conquest, which has evolved over the last 18 years from a on-campus B-plan competition to a startup launchpad organized in Delhi, eventually to a full-fledged startup accelerator with the finale week culminating in Bangalore. Utkarsh will shed some more light on the India portfolio.
Hey, hi everyone. This is Utkarsh Chaudhary. I'm currently a third year student at BITS Pilani, and this year I'm leading the 18th edition of Conquest. And along with all the things Faria mentioned, this year we are starting up with a new model that we're going to continue for the next editions, which is a summit. So this year we began with the narrative, and the narrative was to trace the journey of India's business ecosystem. It was a very random idea given by a first year junior. He's a dear junior of mine and he's working on the summit, greatly Madhav. And his idea and the consensus was that the narrative is really worthy and we should definitely build on it. So at first there was just an idea and we all began to brainstorm on it. We started to refine the narrative. And in the beginning, we had no structure in mind about how we'd get this narrative out, what speakers do we call, what format do we deliver this. But we first thought of interviews, podcast, and many various other formats. But then the team sat and decided on a consensus that the value of narrative only lies in the continuation of it, and anything spaced out just won't do justice to what all we have worked on. That's why we divided the last 4 decades of India's business ecosystem into 3 eras, and then started to work on more refining it. Started to research on each era. Started to see what specific events and anecdotes defined these eras, and that's how through different anecdotes we build eras, and through eras we build a great narrative. And as we solidified the narrative, the next big mammoth task in ahead of us was to look for folks who can best deliver their thoughts, and they know what exactly happened, they know the nuances in that period. And we tried to look for people behind companies that people know, but the founders and folks they don't. And in this manner, we try to cover the ecosystem from its beginning to the latest innovation we can find. And we finalize the people who are the best ones to speak on these things. And logistics of organizing this summit and getting speakers on board and finding, shortlisting, mailing, and getting connections out is something that I won't even talk about. That's not so. The narrative is important, and the speakers you've gotten here is important. So this is how it all started, and the team's been phenomenal all this time. We are in my like I haven't seen a team working with this ethic in BITS Pilani in other colleges, and not even the last 2 editions of Conquest I've looked at as a first year right and a second year right. So now I'll hand it over to Faria to discuss upon what all new things Conquest has planned and what all do we have for the founders, and then on to the summit speakers. Thanks a lot.
As we progress with Conquest 2022, the registration period will be closing on 14th of June. We will, we will later be entering into the mentoring phase, where the top startups will be mentored by a pool of 100 plus mentors. This will be the top 30 phase. During this top 30 phase, the mentors will be evaluating the startups based on a few criteria, like the USP, the market, the team, etc. And further will be marking them to help us in shortlisting the top 15 startups. The top 15 startups will then go through a mentorship period, which will be a more in-depth engagement on topics like team building, fundraising and its allocation, product market fit. Post this, we will be shortlisting the top 10 candidates who will be flying down to Bangalore for the finale week. During this week, we will be having investor meetups and P2P sessions from which our cohort can derive maximum value. This will then culminate to our demo day, which will be happening on the 21st of August in Bangalore, which will be graced by several angels, stalwarts, stalwarts from the ecosystem, and a panel comprising of experts from our investment partners, our VC partners, and media houses. I think it is before we start with the summit, it is very important to give credit where it's due. The Conquest team. Conquest has been running for the past 18 years, and each year the team has built over the base of their predecessors. And pulling off a summit within a month is nothing short of a colossal feat. It gives me great pleasure to work with such a dedicated team. It is basically a bunch of first and second years who've taken the initiative of conceptualizing, materializing, and bringing to life this entire summit, and with what finesse. The idea of this summit and the quality of the speakers is a testament to their hard work, their hustle, and their consistent efforts that they've been putting in. I think that's all
Secondly,
from my.
Secondly, at last, as students, we definitely miss out on nuances. We have fewer connects in the ecosystem, and there have been folks who have been like crucial to building this summit. And without their support, without their help, it will all never be possible. Naman from Your Story, Jivraj from Angel List and India Silicon Valley podcast, Gaurav Mandlecha, Rahul Seth, all these people have brought in all their thoughts and they have guided us through this journey. And the team's been very active to like extract whatever they can from these great people. And yeah, I think with this note, we can definitely start on the summit to hearing some like more
great
folks.
stories. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Utkarsh and Dhruv, for those inspiring words. You have set the stage for an exciting and inspiring event ahead. We are thoroughly looking forward to the next 2 days with a clear objective in mind: to discover the past, understand the present, and ideate upon the future. Presenting our first panel of the day, Internet First Companies, with Mr. Ajit Balakrishnan and Mr. K Vaitheeswaran.
The consumerization of the internet has been one of the biggest inflection points in the history of the planet, changing the way that people work and communicate. Ideas such as platforms to network, buy, and browse the internet's vast repository and online marketplaces have redefined the trajectory of the world. These are ideas that came up in India at a very similar time as their Western counterparts, and a testament to the fact that Indian founders noticed and built on the incredible potential that the internet held. Our first panel of the day, titled Internet First Companies, seeks to trace the growth of the Indian internet space with some of the pioneers of this industry.
Introducing our first member of this panel, we have Mr. Ajit Balakrishnan, founder, chairman, and CEO of one of India's first and largest web portals, Rediff.com. Mr. Balakrishnan understands the growth of the internet space like no other. As a member of the Ministry of Human Resource Development, Mr. Ajit chaired the Committee on Education and Entrepreneurship for the National Education Policy. We look forward to hearing your insights on the topic.
Our next panelist is K Vaitheeswaran. Widely hailed as the father of e-commerce in India, Mr. Vaitheeswaran was the founder and CEO of Indiaplaza.com, India's first online shopping platform. Mr. Vaitheeswaran has advised global brands, including Deloitte and Tata, and has served on the advisory board of several startups. A popular speaker on entrepreneurship in various forums, Mr. Vaitheeswaran closes out our panel for Internet First Companies. Over to you, sir.